And welcome everybody to Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper here, and as you can see, I'm in a different location. We'll get to that in just a second, but it is episode 54 of Dad's Watching Sports, Sunday, February 28th, 2021. I am actually in Florida. My wife and I came down to the Sunshine State a couple of days ago. We were in Beverly Hills, Florida, seeing her grandparents. I thought I was going to get a show tonight. If any of you follow the SpaceX program, they were supposed to launch a rocket tonight. We were going to be able to see it. We actually walked outside. They were ready to go. And then like a minute and 20 seconds in with left in the countdown, and they postponed the flight. But the good news is it's postponed for tomorrow, and we are driving over towards Cape Canaveral tomorrow, so we will get to see it up close and in person tomorrow night, which we're really excited about. My daughter is very, very excited about that. Thank you for joining us on Dad's Watching Sports. Again, Michael Draper here, and we're excited to have a big show. Obviously, Kyle Castle's not here tonight. I'll get into that a little bit later on in the program, but it is a great week on Dad's Watching Sports, and we're looking forward to getting into that. I'll be joined by our guests here in just a few minutes, but obviously, always we want to make sure you know where to find us. So if you're watching us on our Facebook page or on the Off the Ball Network Facebook page, thank you so much. Go ahead and shoot us a comment when you can, and if you can, and obviously, if you're listening to us through our podcast, thank you for downloading that. You can download it anytime, any place, anywhere, wherever you download podcasts. Just give us a rating and review and hit that subscribe button if you wouldn't mind. We would love for you to do that. So I'm really excited about this. It is a little bit of a bummer. Kyle's not here to join us for this, but I'm really excited as we've got two awesome guests that are going to be joining us here. So I've got Ryan Watson and Jonathan Boren from the Coach's Corner podcast that is a part of the Broadway sports media platform. They're going to be joining us, and I'm going to bring them on now. Ryan and Jonathan, guys, how is it going? Jonathan, I'll start with you. How are you, sir? And welcome to Dad's Watching Sports.
Man, it's every single week we get asked this question kind of thing, and things are going great, but man, COVID just bears you down. It's the same thing. I worked and watched a little bit of sports, and there weren't any fans there, but I guess I'm good. I'm good. I can't get too much, so I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, how about yourself?
I'm doing great too. I gotta echo the sentiments there, but for me, this pandemic and the quarantine has been kind of nice because I felt like a lot of times having two kids and going too fast through life. You work. You don't get a whole lot of time to spend with them, and then if you work an hour away from your home, like I had been doing, you miss even more time. So this has really kind of been nice to be able to get up from the computer at 4:30 and be like, let's go play outside, and like immediately be able to go play during the day for 30 minutes here and there. So I can't really complain. I get to see my daughters a whole lot more than I used to. So this has been kind of nice in a way. So I know a lot of people are struggling for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm a lot in that same boat as well, working from home now. And it's the flexibility has been very nice, but it's been a challenging year. And it's crazy that we're just like 2 weeks away from really coming back to when the sports world shut down, Rudy Gobert testing positive in the NBA. And then really after that, it was a domino effect, one after another for the sports world. And hard to believe we're coming up on a year from that, and we are still pretty limited and stuff. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, and trust me, exactly the sentiments that you just said there. A year. It's really been 12 months of that same time. In my job off the actual show here. Had to lead the IT response to COVID, and man, it's been an absolute flash. And the response to it, and you talk about with sports, like that's your getaway, and when it goes away and the pivot that they have to make, there's no escaping it. So it truly has been. People talk about it's the year of COVID, but it's the year of only COVID. There's nothing else to really go hand in hand with it, and we've gotten some reprieve late in the year, but man, it hits you like a Mack truck.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll talk Coach's Corner and Broadway sports media. We'll talk about all of that here in just a second. But let's hear a little bit about you guys, yourselves and your families. Ryan, we can start with you first. Just tell us about yourself, about your family, and what you've got going on.
Yeah, sure. So Ryan Watson from Alabama originally. Don't hold that against me. Found my way to Tennessee playing college football, and then got my chance to coach college football at Lambeth University. Coach Vic Wallace gave me my opportunity to start. Believe me, no, I really think he just needed cheap labor, and I was the only one that was dumb enough to say that. But no, I did that for a few years, coached at University of North Alabama as well. Met my wife at Lambeth. She was a star basketball player there, won a national championship her senior year. And from there, she's from Franklin, so I moved over here with her once I was done coaching. I actually got fired by Hugh Freeze, so that's a little tick on the resume there.
Nice.
Lambeth. So, and since then, we built a life here. Coached at Independence High School when I first moved over here for just a little bit. Currently working at a local HCA here in Nashville. Two wonderful daughters, Avery and Caroline, 9 and 4, and they're just my world. I know I say that a lot. I get a little grief sometimes, but they really are. Every decision I make, everything that I do in life is with them in mind, and how this is going to affect them, and how are they viewing me for their life. So really, that's me in a nutshell. And I'm a big jock, and as you can see from Jonathan's background, I'm also a very big nerd. I love Star Wars, love Marvel, all that kind of stuff. I just kind of I'm not your typical jock, and never have been. So I love video games and all that too.
Hey, well, you guys know Kyle, who's not with us tonight, but he likes The Bachelor and Bachelorette. So, you got Star Wars and Marvel. Kyle's got his Bachelor and Bachelorette. I set Kyle up. We talk about the script for this show or the rundown every week, and I set him up. I said, man, you can be our resident Bachelorette expert. And he tells me, oh, yeah, I watch it every week, or it's just on when Lauren's watching it and I'm in the background. And then we bring it up, and he's like, oh, I don't know. He tries to play it cool, so I'm a little disappointed in that. But, just because we like sports doesn't mean we can't like other things. So.
I'll let Jonathan speak on that, but we all have our junk TV, man. We all have our trash TV. I say this all the time. Mine was Jersey Shore. For whatever reason, I could not stop watching in the Challenge on MTV. I loved those train wrecks. It just was train wrecks for me. I loved them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm disappointed that Kyle isn't here for many reasons, but now I'm even more disappointed because I too am subjected to The Bachelor and Bachelorette on a weekly basis, and that could have been your entire show in content because just the people. It's absolutely, these people actually exist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, maybe we'll have you guys back at some point in time, and we can have a Bachelor tell-all with Jonathan and Kyle. But Jonathan, tell us a little bit about yourself and your family and everything that you've got going on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Super happy to be here, but mostly real life, dealing with COVID like everybody else. Have the single son and started Broadway sports media. So I can tell you, with the ice storm that we had here, and having a son who, I won't say everybody that has multiple children, you all are superheroes. Because I assume that you all have the exact same son that I have, which never tires, never. When he is out, he is out. But until then, it is 100% balls to the wall until that moment. And so, anybody that has multiple children, 100%, I am bowing down to you. You are all superheroes. You are what comes after the Avengers. Everybody's waiting for that. And so it's just people with multiple children. So that's pretty much me.
Yeah. Well, I actually have told some of my wife's grandparents, I've told them probably every day we've been here, like, I am sorry that your house has been hit by a tornado. It's been madness around here, and they love it because they're older, and this is, they don't get this very often, but I mean, it's just pure, from the moment they're up to the moment they go to bed, it's just pure chaos, and it's trying to control that with a 2 and a 4-year-old. So yes, I agree. We are superheroes, and we need to make
you are
that for sure.
Pat yourself on the back. So
my wife is a superhero. That's as far as I'll go.
I'm dealing with an about to be 4-year-old. I got a table saw today, and I'm like, I get to do all these projects. But 90% of my life at that point, after having a table saw, it's just making sure he's not around me.
Yes.
Like I got to cut 3 boards. The rest of it was just making sure he was not around it.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
3 times. Like, it's done. It's off. All right. Cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that always goes on for sure. So, all right. Well, tell us a little bit about. We'll start with Broadway Sports Media, and then we can kind of hone in on the Coach's Corner show that you guys do. But Jonathan, tell us a little bit about where this came from, the idea came from, how you guys got it started, and where you're at now.
Yeah, no, I think Broadway sports media mostly, I say it a bit, but Broadway sports was an idea. Essentially, you had several people that were around the Nashville area, and everybody knows how quickly Nashville is growing. It's a national story about Nashville is the greatest place to move to. Everybody's moving here. And so you had a lot of these guys that have been writing, guys, girls, and it was the idea of, well, why are we writing for all these separate entities? If people want to create truly the best spot for coverage of professional sports and not just clickbait stuff, we will not be clickbait. We refuse to be clickbait, where you're just putting things out there because you want to tick people off. And so it was the idea, let's put it all in one place. Let's all come together rather than just communicating and saying, hey, this is crazy, this was out there. No, let's all come to one location and build it. And let me tell you, it has been a ride. We had talked about it for a couple of years, and eventually, if you know my personality, you know that I get tired of people talking about ideas, and I say, cool, we're going to do it. And so it was pretty much just probably a random Friday night with maybe a beer or too many kind of thing, where I said, cool, we're going to start a company and bring 15 people in, and just we're just going to go for it.
Right.
So it's been a really good ride. But Broadway Sports has been bringing together people that are truly passionate about the area, not just looking for jobs, passionate about the coverage, and making sure that they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So you guys, obviously, Titans, Predators, now Nashville Soccer Club. There's a lot going on in the Nashville area in terms of professional sports teams and just sports teams in general. So it's got to have been, at least, even though we've gone through COVID, but there's so much going on. We got a new stadium, a new soccer stadium that's in the process of being built. The Titans, went to the AFC Championship game last year. This year didn't quite get there, but they still had a really good season. The Predators, we may not touch on that, but it's got to
had success recently. So
exactly, it's got to at least been fun, putting all this together and really pushing out all this content covering these teams that have had some success and have had a lot of exciting times here recently.
Right.
Yeah, I can tell you that the area with the growth that it's had, and we talk about Nashville soccer and the guys that like John Sloop, Ben Wright, that those guys have been putting out, Davey, who's on 104.5, that the soccer coverage, I really think that's a market. Everybody knows about NFL. There's nobody you're going to run into who's like, oh, National Football League? What is that? They throw a pigskin and throw a fork. Everybody knows about that. So there's a market there. But here in the Nashville area, with where I think soccer is going, maybe this is cliche because people have been saying it for 15 years that soccer is the next big thing here in the U.S. But I think that the Nashville Soccer Club, you started to see it. They had some success in the way they came out of the COVID, and they were the first. Here's a little behind the scenes. We actually were going to launch our website based around when they were going to launch the MLS's back cut, because they were going to be the first professional sport bet. Yeah. Now, they were one of two teams with Dallas that then gets delayed. But, yeah, you talk about it. Soccer is a true sport here in Nashville. And, you try to get MLB in here, and some NBA teams show up randomly once every decade kind of thing. But I think along with the Titans, I think Nashville soccer is going to continue to grow and going to be a mainstay here in the mid-state.
Plus, those games are really fun.
They are.
Oh, my gosh.
They are, yeah. So Kyle and I and two of our friends went to the home opener, last year, around this time last year. And, man, I know we didn't win, but it was so much fun. And you could just feel kind of the energy and the electricity about that event and how, here we go, this is going to take off. And then COVID hits and everything kind of gets shut down. They didn't get to have that energy kind of throughout the season. But yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a good time to be a sports fan in the Nashville area and to have kind of all this going on. And it's exciting to see that you guys have all that information right there for the Nashville sports fan. Ryan, let's talk specifically about the Coach's Corner podcast. This is going to be kind of a cool new idea. I mean, you guys all have coached. You both have coached, so it's a little bit different perspective than just your run-of-the-mill football show. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So a little background about Jonathan and I actually started doing a podcast called Taking It to the House a few years ago. We kind of had the idea where we were literally sitting around talking for an hour after every game about what went right, what went wrong. So we finally just looked at each other and we were like, why don't we just try to put this out there and get a podcast to go? And so we did that for a little bit. Of course, life happens, and we took a little bit of a break. I had my second child. Jonathan had his first, and we just couldn't find the time to meet on a weekly basis at that point in time. And when all this started coming back up, we were like, you know what, it's time to dust off the mics. And we looked at our platform and what all the shows like Football and Other F Words, Music City, Miracle, some of those other podcasts we have on the show, they dealt with a lot of good content. But the one thing that was missing and the thing that we could bring to them is kind of that coach's spin, that coaching angle. And what we've tried to focus on is when we're breaking down the games, either looking ahead to an opponent or what went on in the game, we go into specific plays, try to talk about what went right, what went wrong. Because as a coach, I go to games a lot of times. I just hear people yell out things like, oh, that's not working. Please stop doing this. Do something else. But they never have an answer for what else to do. So we wanted to try to put out a product that could at least talk to people and say, hey, here's why this wasn't working, or here's why they were running that play to try to set this play up. And this is what the defense countered with. So we try to go a little more in depth in our content, which, we also lead into some other things because we also have done some interviews. We want to try to find coaches to interview. We just had Dr. Dyson on a couple weeks ago. I had a great interview with him where we didn't talk really much about football. We talked about life and finding passions in life. So we're kind of we'll talk to anybody who has passion for life and passion for sport and want to talk to them about those kind of things. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of those things, but we really want to focus, especially in season, on those breakdowns and really get into the games. We also love coaching malpractice. And we want to talk about, I say love, we love to hate it because it's just the worst thing in the world to see time mismanagement or situational mismanagement or teaching corners to press and not getting hands on people. Jonathan, that one's for you. So we like to go into those situations as well and talk about, break those down, what they could have possibly done better or what might have happened differently. So those kinds of things. So that's what the Coach's Corner is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I listened to that interview you guys did with Dr. Dyson. It was a great interview. We've had him on our show as well. And it's some of the stuff that he shared with y'all was really cool and interesting. I didn't realize that he was writing a book. I think that's really cool that will be, and he's launching his own podcast. And after, talking about that after football life and that after football career, kind of like you were alluding to with passion. That's really cool. So I didn't include this in the rundown, but one thing I wanted to ask you guys, I also coached, I coached high school basketball. I didn't coach football, but I coached high school basketball in a previous life. So kind of know that coaching mentality a little bit. Do you have any fun, like this parent was a little overzealous or a fan jumping in and saying, hey, why aren't y'all doing this? Any fun stories that y'all can relate to or share with us from your coaching lives?
Man, I know. Go, Jonathan. You want to lead with your story? I'm not sure which one you're going to go with. If you want to lead, I've got a couple. Maybe I can go to.
So I'll say this is more of me, putting my foot in my mouth. I don't remember the exact game, but there's always a stereotype of kickers and special teamers among coaches, like, oh, it's the kicker. And I typically was not that guy, but I don't remember the exact game. We had a punter come in. Punt, put us in a really bad position, and I was always the coach that was on top of I was up on top of the press box to get the high vantage point and catch every single wind gust that ever came through the area. So I always looked like the Michelin Man with all of my layers of clothing on. But I remember this happening. I'm pretty sure it was a playoff game, and just in the moment saying probably not some nice words and saying freaking punters. And it was about probably 3 seconds after that I remembered that the head video guy was the punter's father right next to me in this moment. And so it was one of those, like, we're not going to acknowledge that this moment happened. Like, I'm just going to continue on to the next play. You do the same thing. My bad. So I will say that was probably, it never got brought up, but that one was on me.
That's hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious.
So I guess the one I'll go with, and I've got a couple, but the one I'll go with is similar. I was caught on a hot mic. We were playing Belhaven out of Mississippi, out of Jackson, Mississippi. They were up playing in our house. We had Alan Irvin, who is a fantastic running back. He actually played for the Detroit Lions after he graduated from Lambeth, and he had broken off like enough. He was close to a record of some kind, but like 2 or 3 of his long runs got called back, and I got fed up. So then we ran a toss play again, and he took it 49 yards to the house, and the flag came out. Referee starts calling holding, and I was done. And Lambeth, again, it's an NAIA college, so we're kind of open, like Jonathan. We're up on top there, where if I say anything louder than a few decibels, everybody's going to hear me. I was telling this ref exactly what I thought about him and what I thought about his mom and some other things. I'm not much for language, but I was at this moment. And when I stopped, I noticed the other 2 coaches up there were staring at me. And when I looked at them, I happened to see our radio guy, Diamond Dave McCulley, looking over at me and goes, and that's assistant coach Ryan Watson telling the refs what he's done. Like, oh no, that went out on the radio.
Oh no.
So that was not my best moment there for sure.
Yeah.
My proudest moment, though, when I was coaching Independence, we were JV. We were coaching JV a little bit, and we went to Centennial, and the coach on the other side came to me before the game and said, "Hey, we're going to coach from the huddle. Is that okay with you?" And my eyes got big and wide. I said, "Yeah, bet. Let's do that." So, because we had a JV quarterback who had struggled, and he seemed to throw more interceptions than he actually threw passes, if that's even possible. I stood behind him for that entire scrimmage. And literally, as he's walking the huddle, told him exactly who to look for in passes and where to go, and was literally saying, "Throw it now, 3-step, throw it now." And I would tell the receivers exactly how to run the routes. And this kid who had thrown like 7 or 8 interceptions in the previous 2 or 3 games threw 6 touchdowns. And to this day, it's my proudest. Like not this big college feat, not this anything else. It was that moment that I was able to help that kid and let him go. And I always want to ask that coach, did he regret letting us on the field that day?
Absolutely. I am sure that he did. No, those are great. Kyle and I've shared a couple of our stories. One thing that I remember, and I will probably forever remember this, is I was coaching our JV basketball team, and we were on the road, and we were losing to a team that we had no business losing to. And I had a kid that he dressed JV, but also dressed varsity. Didn't play much varsity, but he was, good enough to at least dress. And, tried to be hard on him because this is a kid that at least had some potential. And he was an underclassman, so he had time to grow and into a good player. And he missed a rebound or something, and I pulled him out, and I got into him pretty good. And then we called a timeout, and I'm still kind of getting into him pretty good. And his mom is about 3 rows up. And she said, "Well, he would be able to rebound if you'd stop yelling at him." I mean, and the place was dead silent. And I just kind of paused and sat there for a second. And it took everything within me not to say anything. But I looked at him, and I could just see he was like mortified.
Yeah.
I looked at him and said, "Hang in there, get back in, let's go." And the kid actually ended up playing pretty well the rest of the game. But I never had a parent it was dead silent. And you could hear her clear across the gym, and that kid's face was just like he knew exactly who it was. That it was dear old mom. So always good to share some coaching stories because there's a ton of them. Okay, so I want to get y'all's take on this. So we're doing this thing next week. It's called our fan show, where I've interviewed some other guests on the show, some people a part of the Off the Ball Network, and some others about their just fan experience. And, how did you become a fan, or what team are you a fan of? Because I'm just fascinated by the whole fan deal, because sports is something that people just become obsessed with, and me included. And it's just kind of cool to see how that all takes place. And you talk about rivalries and kind of all the not. And we're going to talk about all that next week. And we've actually got a guy that literally wrote a book about being a fan that's going to come on with us and talk a little bit about the science behind it. So, Jonathan, we'll start with you first. Just tell us a little bit about, kind of who's your team, who did you grow up being a fan of, and any kind of fun stories that go along with that.
Man, I'll start in the college ranks. I'm an Ohio State fan. Living in the South, that's been a very easy experience that has had no repercussions whatsoever. But I think it was one of those. I started to get into football right around the time of the Miami Ohio State National Championship game, which was arguably one of the greatest football games that has ever been played, with multiple overtimes the way it went. And so people ask me, like, I got into Ohio State, chose not to go there. I don't have personal ties to it too much, but I have always been attached to that team. And so it's just kind of grown from there. I think when you talk about, what creates a fan, I had that emotional moment with that team, and when I was at a point where I was building that fandom, and so that became Ohio State. Really fun story, which I shared with Dr. Dyson last week, I think. It was the first time I had been in like a professional football game was the Music City Miracle. So the guy that went on to hire me for my first official coaching job, I actually got to watch him play in a moment, which made me a huge Titans fan. So that was a really cool interaction to see how that played out years later, years down the line. When you talk about fandom there, so. Yeah, those are my two. I'd say those are my two teams. I've become, as a coach, less fanatical, which is what fan is around. And you watch. I'm a boring person to watch football with because I sit there and just, well, yeah, he didn't make it. I'm not going to yell at you. Yeah, the left tackle missed his block there. That's why the quarterback missed it. Oh, you don't want to hear about that? You're right. He dropped the pass. My bad.
Absolutely, Ryan. What about yourself?
Well, I mean, as I stated in my intro, I am from Alabama, so I grew up around a lot of Alabama fans. My brother in the same family somehow became an Auburn fan, so we had that going on. That he married an Auburn fan himself, so they have a whole Auburn side of their family. My whole side of the family is Alabama. Here recently, though, to be honest with you, I've had a lot of fatigue on national championship sue me, watching them a lot, shaking his head over here. But I've always been a big Alabama basketball fan. And even more now than ever, I think it's like a 1A, 1B situation for me with Alabama. Is I really enjoy Alabama basketball, even when they're not doing well. I enjoy them, and so like this year, they're doing better than most. They're still very iffy team when it comes to things. They rely on the three a lot, but they have a good defense, those kind of things. So it's nice to see them have some success. I'm actually a real big Alabama basketball fan. And I'm kind of weird too, because like I grew up a Kansas City Chiefs fan because I followed Derek Thomas from Alabama to the Chiefs, and Joe Montana was my favorite NFL player, so he went to the Chiefs. It was almost kind of perfect. And then I went to go play college football, and I kind of broke ties with everything because I was only a fan of the teams I was involved with. I didn't know what was going on in the SEC. I did not know what was going on in the NFL. All that was just kind of a blank slate for me. And I moved here to Franklin in 2008, 2007. And I've been a Titans fan since then because I was in the area. I just kind of picked back up with them. And the Chiefs team wasn't the same one that I rooted for, 8 years prior. So like it was just kind of a big thing. So right now I'd probably say those two. And I'm a big Cubs fan. I know you said two, but three. I'm a big Cubs fan. But that's tapered off since they won the World Series. Because like, I saw it. I'm not going to die not seeing them win a World Series, so I'm good. And then it just kind of tapered off for me. And I've kind of focused more on with kids. I don't have time to sit down and watch a 4-hour baseball game now.
Yeah. I know you're about to lead into something. I just have to say something.
You go
off that entire thing by saying I've seen too many national championships.
I was going to go there.
That's disgusting. Can you cut his mic? Be done with it. He's off.
I was very tempted to do that when that came out. I will just come out and say I am not an Alabama fan. By association, I have to at least somewhat appreciate them. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law work for the football team, and so now my kids grow up saying, "Well, we will say Roll Tide only when Uncle Mark and Aunt Kinsey are around." And I'm like, man, that leaves a really bad taste in my mouth, but okay, because I married into this family by choice. But yeah, the whole I'm getting tired of national championships, man. I mean,
it was a joke. I apologize.
It wasn't a joke. It literally rolled off like
I lived through. I feel like I can joke about it because I lived through the bad times, which were the Mikes or whatever the head coaches that whole string of things, Price and so it just there were some bad dark times for Alabama, and I'm also trying to appreciate this, all jokes aside, because these runs don't happen often. Nick Saban's don't happen often. This is going to end at some point. They're going to come crashing back down, and I don't mean like losing 2 games in the season. I mean it's going to be back to 500 football at some point in time. So I am enjoying this while it is. My main point was to get to how well Alabama basketball is doing, which is a surprise for me.
And then they've got Nate Oates, who's a great coach, and they're playing really well, without a doubt. So hopefully they'll they'll continue to do that and represent the SEC in the big dance because not a whole lot of teams will be there. We're going to go to a break in just a second, but wanted to get a couple more questions in. And if you guys don't mind hanging on, I've got a few things to talk after the break. So let's talk about like passing fanhood down to your kids. I mean, that's something that we're all passionate about. And I know, as we get older, it seems like less and less of a priority. At least it does for me. Like I'm a huge University of Kentucky fan, basketball, of course, but yes, even football and a few other sports. But my whole life, I was thinking, okay, I can't wait to have kids because they're going to be UK fans. And now I'm more like, okay, I mean, I want you to be, but at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. But it's still something we want to continue to do. So Ryan, you got your two daughters. Are they do they roll Tide as well?
So I couldn't have had two different personalities in my two daughters. I do have my oldest, Avery, who will probably be my football fan, my sports fan. And my whole idea is that as long as she doesn't come home wearing Burton Orange, I'll be fine. She can't. If she becomes an Auburn fan, I'm good with it. As long as she's not a Tennessee fan. That's the one I will not stand for in my house. I'm not joking at all. So she watches Alabama games with me. She's watching. I watch a lot of Alabama basketball with her because she wants to be a basketball player. So we're watching that. My youngest is. I don't think she's going to like sports at all, and I'm not going to force it. I'm going to say, hey, do you want to? No, you don't. Cool. Go dance and be a fairy over there. Go be a princess fairy. You love doing that. So she's going to be our cheerleader, our preppy girl, those kind of things. At least that's what's looking like. She loves makeup. She loves all that. Avery doesn't, and we're not forcing her to. So we're just, if she wants to sit down and watch sports with Dad, she's going to. She wants to go outside and play sports, all that kind of stuff. Now, I will root for Tennessee if Avery somehow ends up going to play for the Lady Vols in basketball or something like that. I will wear an orange shirt there and say "Go Avery" instead of "Go Vols." But so that's we'll see what happens with it. I don't want to force. Not thankfully, I don't have a son, so I don't have to worry about if I'm going to overdo it with sports, and I can just kind of sit back and let it kind of happen naturally for me.
Well, as long as they don't do what my daughter does. And so I mentioned my brother-in-law and his wife work for Alabama. Well, my wife's sister is a big UT fan. And so I cannot stand Tennessee either, by the way. And so I tell my daughter all the time, I'm like, we can say Roll Tide every once in a while, but we do not say go blank. And so one day we're sitting around and I said, oh, the Cats play tonight. And she said, who they play? And I said, oh, they play the Vols. And she looked at me and she said, Go Vols, and I was like, oh no, sweetie, no. We do not say that.
How to go through adoption? No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. It's a 4-letter word in our house. Jonathan, what about with your son? Have you been able to pass down the Buckeyes or the Titans?
Yeah. So he definitely will throw out a Tighten up, and if I drop an OH, he will hit me with an IO. I've started to teach him. When he sees Michigan fans, a very hard boo. But then I started to think that I got philosophical on it. This is maybe not a good decision being from Spring Hill, Tennessee, which has a GM plant from Detroit. So it's nothing but Michigan State and Michigan fans. So we'll just be randomly walking around the neighborhood and he's booing my neighbors. I'm not mad at him because they deserve it. But at the same time, it's going to be weird when we're walking the next day and we're the family that does that. But I'm just partial to winners, and that's unfortunate for them.
That's right. Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll have more with Jonathan and Ryan Watson right after the break here on Dad Watching Sports. Big news in the Dads Watching Sports podcasting world. You've heard us mention it on the show already. We are now part of the Off the Ball Podcast Network. We're super excited to be joining the team of great shows, hopefully adding a little dad flavor to the mix. You can check out Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network on all your social media sites. Just search Off the Ball Network. And while you're there, give them a like and a follow. You won't regret it. Welcome back to Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper, Ryan Watson, Jonathan Boren from the Coach's Corner, Broadway Sports. Go ahead and check them out. Really quickly, Jonathan, where can everybody find all the information about Broadway Sports?
Yeah, at Broadway TN on Twitter, BroadwaySportsMedia.com. I have a very lively Facebook page. Multiple places you can find it, but at Broadway TN is probably the most active, but the main website, BroadwaySportsMedia.com.
Awesome. I was checking out the website a couple of days ago and saw the I can't remember who wrote the article or the story, but it was kind of a post-pandemic wish list, and thought that might be a good topic for us to have. And this can be really kind of anything. It can be sports related. It can be non-sports related. Just what is, we talked a lot about, well, then COVID hit. Well, since COVID has hit and all that, well, once this is all over with, kind of knock on wood, what's on the wish list for us as a sports fan, for us as a dad, or just an individual altogether? So, Ryan, let's start with you. Let's go 5 down to 1. What's your top 5 wish list post-pandemic?
I included this one last because I know it'll trigger Jonathan a little bit, but birthday parties, because his joke was that we seemed to, for a while, while our daughter, especially through the preschool and kindergarten, you get invited to a birthday party. It seems like every weekend. So I kind of do miss that though, because it's more of like my kids. Avery had a lot of fun with that, so I miss that. So that's my number 5. Is that and you can kind of group in group gatherings to that as well, just to be able to function kind of normally, not have to worry in the back, even like a little bit in your back of your mind, and not have to like have anybody else worrying, and people can interact, and you don't have to like tell your kids to just go be kids. Don't like give them instructions when you go somewhere, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yep.
So we're going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
4 of this for my wife, travel, but mostly because she's a big Disney fanatic and she wants to go to Orlando. So we've been kind of, we've been limited to a couple of things personally on us, just because we're trying to protect our family for reasons. And going to Disney has been kind of like her safe haven, and it's kind of her big ultimate de-stressor. So that one for me would be number 4, would be able to travel again, so we can go places like that, and also go to Minnesota to see my brother's family. We're pretty close with them. He's got 2 that are around the same age as my kids, and they're very close, and you can only FaceTime so much with them. So yep. Number 3 is movies in movie theaters. I really enjoyed that, and I've stayed away from it just because I know they're making them safe. You can even rent out a theater apparently for like $100, but I'm not paying that. I'm not doing that. But I would like to go back and have the theater experience. My family really likes to go to the movies. It's kind of our family date night, is to go out to dinner and then go to the movies. So we'd like to do that again for sure. 2, even though I mentioned the group gatherings, but really number 2 for me, probably this should be number 1, is just be able to hang out with all my friends again, have them over, have some get-togethers. We've done a little things here and there, like smart social gathering where we stay outside and do stuff. But I'd like to get back to a point where we can have the multiple people over and not have to worry about those kind of things. So I know I talked about that a little earlier, but just seeing our friends, because even, we're parents, our kids come first, all that good stuff. I understand that, but you have to have your de-stressors, right? You have to have your friends. Oh, yeah. Have that and see family and those kinds of things. So that's the one thing. And I guess the other one is packed college football games. You talked about it last week with Cole about how he would park 1,500 feet away from a stadium, an SEC versus SEC matchup. I think it was Kentucky and Auburn or whatever it was. And he walked the entire way to the front gate and didn't see another human being. And that's what's beautiful about college football. I enjoy NFL just equally. I'm not one of those that thinks one's better than the other. I think it's football, so I'm going to watch it, But there is definitely a different atmosphere to college football, the tailgating and everything like that. There's just packed college football stadiums, and it's a much better college football experience. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely. All right, so we have a couple of comments, guys. So Kyle jumps in and says, sorry I'm not with you guys tonight, and he wants to see fans in the stands. Kyle, prayers out to you, brother. Hope you're feeling better. Hey, we missed you on the show, but yes, we all want fans in the stands. Jonathan, what about you? What's your top 5 wish list post-pandemic?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did not do is share notes. So Ryan got quite a few of those there.
Sorry.
I would say, so I'm going to give my 2 that kind of he didn't give. So there's a little bit of a free here, but I would say that 1 is not just fans in the stands, but live events. So, we've launched a website, and so bringing people together, not just the people that are writing about it, but the fans that have been around things. We want to be in those live events. We want to build that community. And so when we can get away from that and just go to a pub, go hang out with those people that have read that content, not just reading it because we don't want to be, this guy writes for ESPN. He's this huge, he's a celebrity. No, it's everybody just wants to be a part of something kind of thing. So being able to actually celebrate those things, that's the biggest thing that I miss and I look forward to. Number 1, and this is, it's the dad's podcast here. Every single day that we go driving with my son, he asks, can we go sit in a restaurant? And it's kind of weird to have that conversation with a 3-year-old. Well, I know there's a crippling pandemic that's taking out, 500,000 people in our country, so we can't go do that because, there's lots of germs around, buddy. But no big deal. No, you want a Happy Meal? Happy Meal? No. So yeah, just getting to go and that be normal to go to a restaurant and hang out with your family. That's the biggest thing I miss.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a few of the same ones that you guys had. A couple of my different ones. My number 5, and if Kyle's watching this, he's going to laugh. Buffets. I'm a big buffet guy, and I just don't know that buffets are ever coming back. And it breaks my heart that you're not going to get your Pizza Hut buffet or your Golden Corral buffet or whatever you want to go and enjoy. So and my wife is probably, if she's watching, she's probably mortified that I'm talking about that. But I'm a huge buffet fan, so that's definitely. And then my biggest one's like, are hugs and handshakes gone forever? Now if you just kind of give the fist bump to everybody, or you just kind of do it from a distance. But I'm a big guy. Yeah, you can't go elbow in. There's somebody at our church that does that, but. I'm a big handshake guy, and especially around family, I'm a big hugger. And so the fact that those things haven't been able to happen predominantly over the past year, I hope they're back soon. Guys, so last week we had Cole Kubelik on from the SEC Network and Eastern Radio. We talked a little bit about way too early top 25 for college football. It happens every year after Ryan's Bama Crimson Tide win another national championship, and then they come out and say, okay, who's going to be in the top 25 for the next year? So I wanted to get y'all's take on kind of, you look at next year and Bama loses a lot. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going from Clemson. Georgia seems like they got kind of the pieces back. But you look at who your top 6 would be going into the season next year. Jonathan, who do you have, and are your Buckeyes in there?
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that I watched some previous content that you may have put out that did not include the Buckeyes.
Right.
The Ohio State. Look, there's 3 teams. You got Bama, Clemson, and Ohio State. After that, then the conversation starts. And I get why you would not have the Buckeyes in, but I would bet some money that by the end of the year, they're in the conversation. And that's not really fandom for me. It's just like there's 3 teams that recruit on a level that's cool. They got theirs. What did the rest of you guys do? And so for me, I guess I give I'm not a huge believer in Oklahoma, but I respect what they did. They're bringing back a quarterback, and I'm a huge believer in the quarterback position, not just in football, but especially in college with the spread offenses that they run. And so Rattler coming back, being in that system, Lincoln Riley, he knows what he does. So I'm going to respect that, and I'm going to say Oklahoma's in there. I really like what USC has done. This kind of goes back to the recruiting rankings and the players they've been putting in. Look, they've been bringing in some guys. So I really like what USC is doing. And Pac-12, there's some teams. Oregon's got some players. Yeah, but at the same time, I do think that USC in the end will be there. They're not going to face a ton of competition. And then, frankly, I like Iowa State. In Iowa State, Matt Campbell, that's a guy that could have named his job for a couple of years, but he respects and wants to be at Iowa State. I don't necessarily get that, but at the same time, he seems to be committed to it. So if you're asking me what my top 6 is, those are my top 6. I'm going Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, USC, Iowa State. There's a couple, but I think after those top 3, it's an upset if it's not one of those 3 at the end, frankly.
Come on, what's not appealing about Ames, Iowa? It wouldn't make you want to stay there, you know?
Yeah. And the Applebee's is great, I'm sure.
No judgment.
I'm sure the Applebee's is absolutely wonderful. Ryan, what about you? Who you have in your top 6?
Well, this is embarrassing. I think we have one difference here, but like Alabama, of course, is my top team because I'm always a big fan of if they are the champions and they're losing a lot, but they seem to reload. They're having, I think, the best recruiting class ever for this year due to rivals or whoever rates those things. So they'll be back at some capacity. So start with them. I think Clemson will also be back because they've been recruiting strong. Ohio State for me, and people are going to point to they lost their running back, lost their quarterback, but they also have pulled in some really good recruiting classes here recently. And I'm telling you right now, Ohio State defensive players, there's just something about those edge rushers that they pull in. Chase Young is sure is the hot name, the Bosa's, but they seem to just roll out guys that can just get after quarterbacks, make things miserable. Interior defensive line and linebackers are some of the best in the country year in and year out. And that doesn't even mention their elite. I mean, their DBU, in my opinion, a lot of times they put a lot of talent in the NFL, and they just have that done right. Now they'll have to see what happens with, they had a hangover from the season, but I'm a full believer in Ohio State as well. Plus they're the ones to beat in Big Ten, and Big Ten will be represented in the playoffs. So you can't have a top four and not talk about Ohio State. Oklahoma's up there for me for similar reasons. They're just seem to always put things together offensively, and in that conference, offense is king, and they'll come right back to it. Georgia for me as well is another one that seems to have great recruiting classes, good coaching. They do have to get through some things, but they're still the king of the East, so they'll have their opportunities. And I like Iowa State as well. They're returning all 5 offensive linemen. Purdy's coming back. Hall's coming back. It looks like it's going to be a real good run for them as well. They do have to get through Oklahoma, of course, but I'm a big offensive line guy. You can return that whole unit back with a starting quarterback. Good things can happen.
Absolutely. Well, I know the people in Ames are very excited because they listen to the show regularly. So the Cyclones fans are going to be very excited to hear that. All right, really quickly, Ryan and Jonathan, anybody outside of what you feel like maybe the top 15 or 20 that you think can make a surprise run to the playoff run next year?
Yeah, so my initial reaction to this was actually say North Carolina. And then I saw that they were in a lot of top 10s. I was like, well, I can't really use them. So I had to keep looking because my reasoning is not that I think Clemson, obviously they're in my top 6, but if they're going to have a down year, this is the year they're going to have it. They're in transitioning. The last time they transitioned from Deshaun Watson, it was Kelly, I think. They ended up going to the playoffs, but they were down. They weren't as potent. They weren't as great. So I look at those teams that could threaten them in the ACC and could make some noise. And the two that stick out to me are North Carolina and Miami. So we'll stick with Miami since they're ranked a little farther back. And with them bringing in King, if he's healthy at the start of the season, and they've really been getting some things in the transfer portal. I know they're having to replace both their edges that are going to the NFL, so that's going to be a bit of a problem. But like I said, in that ACC that generally has been a little weaker outside of Clemson, in North Carolina stepped up last year, those two can make some noise. And Miami just has to win those 2 games, and they're going to be in the thick of things.
All right, Jonathan, what about yourself?
I hate this is going to be recorded, and I know I'm going to hear about it quite a bit. But I talked about not being a huge believer in Oklahoma. When I look at, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big Ten, look, the Big Three got it held down. Oklahoma, not sure you do. And I hate that I'm going to get crap for this, but I think actually Sarkisian may actually pull something out of Texas. Those guys, they've got talent. They got a big-time quarterback, and I already talked about and I like the North Carolina pick because you got Howell there. The guys that have the quarterbacks, they can make runs because that's the position that moves things forward, and especially in college. So, for me, Texas, I think they're going to surprise some people. I hate it because a lot of our writers are big Texas fans, and I promise you, whenever I am wrong on this, I will be leading the charge on how terrible Texas is and how they will never be back. But man, when you got money and you got talent, things start to come together at some point.
Things can pop.
That's a good hit. I think Sarkisian. He's proven he's got the offensive mind, and he's been fairly successful in most places he's gone. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe not in year 1, but it will be interesting to see how he gets things rolling down there in Austin. All right, guys. Last question or topic for you, then I'll let y'all get out of here. We've all heard the news, over the past week about Tiger Woods and the car accident and kind of really what's happened from that. It sounds like it's pretty gruesome leg injury that's going to take some substantial time to come back from frankly, maybe just to be able to walk correctly again, much less play again. But in thinking about that, and we saw, today at the WCS Open that they had a lot of players wore red and black, kind of in honor of Tiger, everything he's going through. You've had kind of the rise and fall and then rise again, and everybody knows about all that. But what do you feel like, Ryan, we'll start with you, the legacy of Tiger Woods is going to be when the book is finally closed with everything that's been going on for him?
So there's two Tiger Woods, right? There is the young Tiger who really was set the world on fire, and he was the one to beat. He made the red shirt thing, where you just knew it was the Michael Jordan aspect, and it was just kind of similar to where the dominant, where you knew that they got into a game mode, they were tough to beat. Not just beat, but you couldn't keep up with them. So there's that legacy of on the court, and he did so much in a short amount of time. And I will say short because you have all these other golfing careers that golfed into their 60s and 70s and still were able to win majors. He won enough that he was up with those same names that had golfed for so much longer than he did. And I remember thinking to myself at one point in time, I was like, gosh, if he continues this pace, he's going to be the greatest golfer of all time, and it's not even going to be close. I think that now he's one of the greats as far as the golfing stuff. It's just kind of tough to say he's the greatest ever because it didn't go all the way through. But he's definitely up there, and I will have arguments that he's number one, number two. I mean, anybody can have their opinion. I think he's up there for sure. I almost said off the field. The off the green stuff is obviously there. You know, his married life and all that kind of stuff. So that's always going to mar it a little bit, unfortunately. And it just sucks that he goes out this way with the bad back and now the legs. It's tough to see if he's going to come back and do anything else. So I think his legacy is what it was. Kind of when he came back and made the short run, he was able to shake off that off the I keep saying off the court, off the field, the off the sport stuff that kind of marred all that a little bit, and always will be there. But he was able to still show that he was Tiger Woods if he could be healthy and if he can get out there and put 18 straight holes together and put a round together.
And I think what you just said there, I think is kind of what I agree with. I think had he not had the success coming back, didn't win the Masters and had that success that he's had in the past couple of years, I think we'd probably look at him a lot differently. But I think the fact that he has really kind of showed that, okay, he still has it in the tank to be the guy or close to the guy he was at one point in time. Jonathan, what about you?
Man, I think Tiger Woods it's the epitome of the day and age that we live in, and we're victims of the moment. I mean, this man is 45 years old, and we saw the peak so early. And unfortunately, he plays a sport where you can play forever, and you almost play out that special notion of what you see. And because we are so oriented to that instant reaction to everything that we see, we don't remember that it's just a couple of years ago we're seeing him win a major kind of thing. And how quickly he got out of tune with winning every major. And so when you look at what in football, you see a Peyton Manning, he wins a Super Bowl, and then he has a bad year and retires, and then it's, oh, well, he trailed off so bad. It was just bad at the end of his career. Or Drew Brees and what he's going through right now. Well, Tiger Woods, that's extended tenfold because you can play that sport forever. And so I think the legacy is once he retires, we'll start to respect what we actually saw. I'm a big fan. You kind of see some of this with LeBron and what he's doing is respect what you're seeing.
Right.
And nostalgia is the worst impactor of respecting what you're seeing in the moment. But I think Tiger Woods, when he actually stops playing, we'll start to actually respect what we saw when he was.
You guys think he comes back from this injury and plays again, wins again? Jonathan, you think he's back in the fold, or is he going to use this as kind of his silent exit?
Look, it's easy for me to say I hope that he does and makes this an exit because he's dealt with so much turmoil, some of it his own doing, some of it not. But I don't think you get to that high of a level with that mentality, frankly. Like that, he does have a killer instinct. He chases adrenaline, which has got him in trouble and other things. But he is very much that competitor. And I think even if you try to tone that down with as you've aged and you've achieved everything, that still has to be there. It's the only thing he knows. If I had to have a gut instinct, I think he's going to make some sort of a comeback. I don't think he will achieve what he's done previously, but I don't think we've seen the last of him.
Absolutely. Ryan?
I agree with that. And it's one of those things where I was a big champion of telling Alex Smith never to come back out on a football field after seeing his leg break and go through all that he did. And I'm so happy that he found the success that he did and was comeback player of the year. That was great. But I still, every time I saw a Washington highlight, I was like, is this the one where he's going to re-injure? I felt so being a father now, if like his kids are watching, those kind of things. So there's a little bit of that with me. I haven't seen any pictures of Tiger Woods' legs. Obviously, I haven't heard too much about other than like you said, gruesome. But it's broken legs, and for the most part, if Alex Smith can come back and play football, if the drive is there, then I think he can. The thing that worries me about Tiger is that he already had the back problems. Now you're going to tell me if there's any kind of leg problem to go with that. That is the only question I have. Is this going to further hamper him and lead to that? Because it's all connected, right? The back through the legs to the hamstring, all that good stuff. So if he now has leg problems to boot with his back problems, I don't know if he can come back and do this. Now, again, that drive, like Jonathan mentioned, is still going to be there. I see him trying. And for me, you said it, he's 45. He could play into his 60s if he's healthy. So we'll see what happens with it. But I think that my wish is that he would be done, because you don't need to add that. He's made enough money. His status, I think, is pretty secure. I think he's going to be on everybody's Mount Rushmore of golfers for sure. I think he probably just needs to walk away. Now, again, if he comes back and wins 2 or 3 more majors, great. I was wrong.
Yeah, and hopefully we all would be wrong in that regard. Go ahead, Jonathan.
In the interest of this being dads watching sports, when Ryan was saying, yeah, it's all connected, I hope I was not the only one that started the song in his head of the hip bones connected to the leg bones. I really appreciate us being on point for that reference.
Yep, or some head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Yeah, absolutely. It's all connected in there.
Too many times.
Absolutely. Kyle's still with us. Says Tiger is done, and then says done. Kyle, don't. He's not done yet, like you, my friend. He's not done yet. So, well, guys, man, this has been awesome. I really appreciate y'all jumping on and talking some sports and some dad life with us. It's been a good time, and I appreciate y'all, Ryan, jumping in and contributing to the show in past episodes as well. Really quickly again, Coach's Corner and Broadway Sports. Where can we find you, and what's coming up? Maybe what's coming up next on the Coach's Corner?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in off-season mode at the Coach's Corner. You can find us at Coaches on Broad on Twitter, at Broadway TN on Twitter as well. We're pretty much bi-weekly right now on the Coach's Corner. Got some good content coming up, though, with some guys that here in the off-season. We're trying to pin down the exact dates on this, so I'm not going to drop too many names. You should absolutely check out the heavy philosophical discussion that we had with Dr. Dyson a week or 2 ago. Absolutely enjoy spending time with him. But yeah, BroadwaySportsMedia.com, at BroadwayTN. You can see my handle here at JB on Broad, and Ryan at Ryan on Broadway.
Correct.
Got it.
I wasn't smart enough to put it next to my name, but yes, that's correct.
I'm the technical guru here.
That's right. Hey, well, guys, again, thank you very much. Really appreciate y'all coming on, and look forward. Maybe we can have you again on soon.
Anytime. Just let us know.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll be right back with one little quick segment on Dad's Watching Sports. Y'all stick with us. Coming up next week on Dad's Watching Sports, it is episode 55, and we are talking all about the fan. How did you become a fan? Why are you a fan? Have you passed down that to your kids or your family? And, of course, all about your rival. That's right. We're talking all things fanhood and fandom on next week's show. Stay tuned for the Fan Project next week on Dad's Watching Sports. Welcome back to Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper here. Kyle jumped in at the very end saying, Mike, we need to up our microphone game. They look professional. Well, Kyle, I'm here in Grandpa's garage, but normally when I'm in the Draper Casa, the Draper studio, I've got a professional mic. You, on the other hand, my friend, yes, you can upgrade your game. Maybe we'll put that in maybe we'll get our legal representation to figure out a way we can get some money for this thing, and we can actually get those. But Kyle, if you are still checking us out, I know that we can't go a show without talking about some Monkey Knife Fight. So let me tell you a little bit about that. Monkey Knife Fight is a daily fantasy sports gaming website for the casual sports fan. It's simple, fun, and easy to play. Users determine which superstars are competing in the day's professional sporting events and will record more or less than the contest line provided. MKF's daily fantasy prop games play similar to the salary cap-based DFS games, but without algorithms, Kyle, because there's no math involved. We don't like that. Lineups, and mostly importantly, no sharks. There are several contests to choose from, none of which require hours of research required on competing sites. Start with a 2 for 2 or go for the highest payouts 100 times and higher by selecting an 8 for 8, more or less contest. Get started now with 100% instant match bonus up to $50 with the promo code off the ball. Monkey knife fight is indeed the best, Mr. Castles. Again, thank you so much for checking out Dad's Watching Sports this week. Special thanks to Jonathan Boren and Ryan Watson for awesome stuff. Please go check them out. Coach's Corner Podcast, Broadway Sports Media. Check them out. They got a lot of great content. Even if you're not in the Nashville area, go check them out. They've got a really great stuff there going on with that. So we will be back next week. I believe it is March the 7th, and we're debuting our fan project. So make sure you go and check that out. We've got a lot of people from the Off the Ball Network. We've got some of our guests that have joined us here previously talking about what it means to them to be a fan. And then, of course, Kyle and I will throw in our stories as well. And then we'll also have our special guest who literally wrote the book on being a sports fan. So check it out next week, the fan episode on Dad's Watching Sports. And we look forward to seeing you next week. This has been Michael Draper. Y'all stay safe out there. We'll see you next week.